and welcome to episode 10 of Floating Through Film. I am one of your hosts, Danny, and this week we are continuing our series on Chaplin, the subject that I picked. Before we get started on this week's two movies, let me introduce our hosts here, Luke.
Hello.
And Blake.
What's up?
And I don't know if you guys remember, but on the last episode, I mentioned that to really talk about Chaplin, at least for the purpose of this episode, the series, is we have to talk about his movies. So I just figured we could go right into the movies, spend our whole time this episode on the two movies we're talking about. The first one being Chaplin's 1923 second feature film, but his first movie without him as the lead. So that's one reason it's a big deal. But
what was his first feature?
The Kid.
The Kid.
Oh,
If you count that as a feature, it's like
They count as a feature.
Yeah,
so
it counts.
It counts.
But yeah, this one, A Woman of Paris, a drama of fate. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier, but 1923, Chaplin. It was a big deal at the time because, obviously he's not in it. And Chaplin was already pretty famous at this time. So
it's crazy. He also had like the title card at the beginning.
Yeah.
That was like,
yes,
yeah.
I was gonna literally mention that. Yeah, because he was actually releasing like at the premiere and stuff. He was passing out like pamphlets saying like kind of nervous about what people are gonna think about him not being in it. But in a way, it's one of the reasons we'll have to get into while we talk about the movie. But it's one of the reasons that I picked this movie instead of The Gold Rush or especially the other one I wanted to pick. The Circus, which I love, but the reason I picked this is specifically because of how different it is compared to these other features we're going to talk about in the next couple of weeks, and how you can see this is the movie that kind of proves that the same director that made Monster Voodoo, existed even in the 1920s. Because Monster Voodoo is like in the 50s, I'm pretty sure, but this one feels closer to that one in a lot of ways, and then all of the Tramp features and the Great Dictator are kind of like in the middle, Yeah. And the main reason for that is obviously the Tramp is not a main character in it for all of them except for the Great Dictator, but also, and this is what I really want to talk about in this on this episode, is how realistic the characters feel. For someone who's like on the surface, if most people talk about Chaplin, they think of him as the funny clown guy. Who's like basically just kind of dancing or like
clumsy guy runs around.
Yeah, running around the camera.
But
But in this movie, 1922, early or 1923, early 1920s, he made in my opinion, just a perfectly executed movie. Even if you don't like the story as much and everything, like just the way everything flows from scene to scene, it just feels like a Chaplin movie in that way. Like no waste, simple, but the characters are so deep at the same time. They're not like you kind of have to actually think about what each one is thinking in their head throughout the film. Like it's a Chaplin movie in that way. But it's not him and it's not funny. So then and that way it's not a Chaplin movie. But before I keep going on and on, let's go to the guy that absolutely hated it with a passion.
Absolutely hated it with a passion.
But no, Luke, actually, you liked it still.
I liked it, yeah.
You just didn't like it as much.
I was kind of confused when it finished because I was like, oh, this is the one Danny loves so much. But
you can say that about all of basically all of Chaplin's movies. So
I mean, some of them I could definitely tell why, but like this one was kind of a struggle for me because I consistently when I was watching it, I was never like bored or anything. I was liking it. It's just I don't know. It just never like took that next step for me. It felt, I hate to use this word, but sort of basic. But like at the same time, there was definitely spots where I could see like how this was ahead of their time. Like I was mentioning to you earlier when the train was going by and like the like rays of light, like I could tell there was not an actual train there, but I was like, dang, that's really cool because I don't think a lot of silent movies from that time had that. And
I love that shot.
There was a lot of things sprinkled in there that I really liked, the scene in the movie like towards the end. I think we're gonna talk about that later, but where he shoots himself basically.
Okay,
is what I'm talking about.
Yes.
I was like, okay, I've never seen that in a silent movie, I don't think. But yeah, other than those like moments, like I don't know, I just was never blown away, is what I'm trying to say.
I think that's definitely fair, and especially that is almost with especially these the Tramp movies and his like first features. That's one of the best part of Chaplin is being blown away by what he's doing, And this one is I can agree with you there. It's not gonna blow you away type movie. It's like I said earlier, the reason why I love it is just it's like a perfectly executed movie.
That's fair.
Like, to me, this proves like Chaplin could have done not anything he wanted, but he could have made all types of movies. You know, he didn't have to stick to the tramp. But part of the reason he did was because of how popular, obviously those movies were compared to this. Right?
Yeah, and it also didn't help that I didn't really know how influential this movie was until after I watched it, and I was like, oh, maybe if I watched it with that in mind, I might have appreciated it a lot more. But yeah, maybe when I rewatch it, I'll appreciate it more. But yeah.
Okay, Blake, you haven't even gone really yet, and I need you on my side here.
I need you on my side here. Well,
Okay.
I am on your side. I think.
I know you are.
I think this movie's also fantastic. I don't even think it's just because of its like influential value to like cinema in general.
Yeah.
Like I just think it's a great story about not judging someone whenever you like don't know their situation, or like whenever you don't know what like led these people like the lives they're living, and that's what Chaplin's so good at. Like he shows before she turns to this life of promiscuity or whatever. Is that how you say it?
Promiscuity.
Promiscuity.
Yeah, I don't even know if I'm
something like
that.
that.
I don't even know what you're trying to say, to be honest.
Promiscuous woman.
Okay.
Like a promiscuous woman, like basically just kind of having sex for money. I mean, I don't think she technically
not even that, but just like
so gold digger.
Gold digger,
but not even that far. But just like how you would see an outgoing public woman compared to if you thought a traditional woman in the 1920s, whatever you might think.
Yeah.
Okay. I see.
Like she's out in the town all the time partying.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, like she reminds me a lot.
She's a mistress,
of, like,
basically.
She reminds me a lot of Jean Moreau's character in Jules and Jim, like just those type of like that type of like and like Viva Savie, this has like a ton of like influence on just like movies in general, of like just showing women and not judging them for like what happened or like what they're doing, like that's my big thing with this one, like why I like it so much.
Before I forget, because you mentioned Jules and Jim, which I didn't even think about until you just mentioned, which is a great comparison because both of those movies are about the reason why people would judge them. They would be judging them based on traditional what they thought a woman in the 1920s would be.
Yeah.
Right, and that's kind of crazy because that movie Jules and Jim even takes place in the
Paris,
20s
and in Paris technically. So.
He must have loved it. He must have not.
He
definitely loved Chaplin. I don't know like how influential directly it was, but
because I saw a lot of influences, at least that this had on the French New Wave. Probably because we just watched it, so it was fresh on my mind. But no, because I just love how he builds up the drama between her and her like husband to be, and like how he shows that she's going to live a happy life with a fairly wealthy man and like have a pretty decent life, but it's kind of the Romeo and Juliet thing where like the parents don't want them to marry each other at all, so like everything basically just falls apart. His dad dies, and like it just like goes wrong. It's just a big old misunderstanding, and like Chaplin the entire movie doesn't judge her or him based on like that misunderstanding.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's why I like so much about it. That's like that opening scene, or like that opening third of the movie where he kind of just spins building up that relationship. I don't know. Yeah. I just thought the payoff, like it just made the payoff so much better at the end.
And you said something a little earlier where you said just from the beginning it's kind of like a big misunderstanding and it just leads from there kind of thing, right? But in the title, I think it's even a better word than misunderstanding is fate.
Yeah,
right.
Fate,
it's a drama of fate. Like everything that takes place throughout the whole movie was spun from the beginning. From the both dads rejecting their kids. Yeah. Basically, right. All of those problems happen from that. Both the parents of those two kids, they want them to have different lives. The guy character, their parents don't think she's good enough, right?
Yeah.
And vice versa, right? The father of the girl, Edna Purvance, he doesn't like her, right?
Yeah.
And it just all leads from there, like. I really like that because Chaplin's showing not only that, but we shouldn't judge these characters because of that.
Yeah. And
kind of related to that, and honestly, maybe the best performance in the movie is the guy character, Pierre Ravel.
Yeah, he's great.
He's so good. I think his name is Menjo, the real actor. But to me, he's kind of a great character because he's not a straight villain, at least in my opinion. Maybe some people watched it and just thought Chaplin was kind of showing he's the villain, like she's. I could see why some people might watch it and think, oh, he's the one that she's not supposed to end up with.
Yeah.
But watching it this time, I was like,
I
can see why. Like, he might be saying that she's better. They're better together than him and the artist. Than her and the artist. And part of it is, we just have to talk about maybe the best scene in my opinion of the movie is when she comes back up the stairs and they're fighting about how she doesn't need him, and to prove it she throws the necklace.
Yeah, the
pearl necklace out the window, and then she sees like a bum pick it up and keep walking.
Oh, yeah.
And she sprints down to go get it back, and the whole time he's like
he's just laughing
like,
up there,
like kind of cocky, like just proving that he's right. But Chaplin's being honest there, like she has that side of her in her too, right? Where a straightforward melodrama or something wouldn't show that scene, right? It'd be too honest. They would just show. You can't show that late in the movie, or else you might not sympathize wholly if the right couple gets together at the end, right? Yeah. But you can do that in this movie because part of what makes the movie great, and kind of related to Jules and Jim, is part of her heart is on both sides. Yeah. And you can see it throughout the movie where it's like part of her wants to go with the artist, but deep down she loves the money aspect and his kind of smoothness and his lifestyle and everything. She loves that part as well, right? And you mentioned the first third part of the movie when they're building up, I think, the artist and Edna, right? But one of my favorite, it's honestly, I keep saying this about a lot of parts of the movie where it's maybe my favorite part, and that's how you know it's a great movie. But one of at least the first great moment in the movie for me, outside of the train sequence, is that really the next scene where they're together at like the restaurant. It's one of the next scenes, and it's her first time, like, because we just saw their background. It's like all dark and stuff, and all of a sudden you're in this like party restaurant. It's like bustling everywhere, and it looks like amazing in some ways, and it's like rich food. And I think like the caption about him says something like he's a man of living. He studies eating like he studies living or something like that. I forget the exact quote, but
I forgot the quote.
Oh, I have it right here. Pierre Ravel makes the study of eating like he makes an art of living.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, like you can see why she likes this guy too. You know? Like, and it's kind of just what I love about it. Like you could just talk about the characters forever almost, and it's not even.
I didn't think that he was a villain. Like, well, I never got that from him. Like, I just thought it was a very honest portrayal of like a man that would be that well off, you know, who's literally about to marry like another extremely well off person just to combine fortunes, basically. And he's willing to give all that up for her though, because you see that at the end. Like he is willing to give all of it up.
And that's another thing. That's the. Like we see his human aspect too.
Yeah, like, that's one reason why I liked it so much, because he humanizes. Not like that's probably the reason I didn't think he was a villain in this movie. Like I thought he did some like shitty things, obviously, like laughing at her whenever she's going down to pick up. All three of them do.
Yes.
Like I mean the biggest shitty thing that the artist did was not being honest to himself and to his mom, and what eventually led to his downfall.
Right. Like it's almost. When the girl's out of the room, he's like, forgiving his mom, like you're saying, I'll do whatever you say, but then the secretary's in there, and he's like he can't make up his mind which woman he wants to choose, kind of thing.
Yeah, and I mean that's very common. I mean, because like a lot of kids don't want to like disappoint their parents, obviously, and it's, I mean, you can see why the mom wouldn't want her son to be with a woman like her either, because like she doesn't think that he can give her the life that she wants, and
she wants, right? Because he says that, right? Like, you only care when it impacts you or something. Yeah. He yells at her or something.
Yeah. And that's, I just thought that itself was just like a really interesting dynamic and just really cool. And, I don't know, like I feel like I've seen a few silent movies and most of them aren't like this. Like this had so much influence that like this setting is basically what was done like the next 40 years. I feel like in all like melodramas.
Yeah.
Like that's what it feels. That's what it feels like.
But this is the difference. Like when people hear melodrama, at least when I hear it, the first thing I think is like over dramatic, and more importantly, not honest.
Yeah, not really.
And that's what I love about this movie. It's that melodrama kind of style, and you can see it starting to build.
Yeah.
But it's different because it's, especially the ending, which I know Luke mentioned a little bit earlier, but and kind of what we've been talking about throughout the movie. It's like, like the character might be one way, but then he shows a different scene where it makes you think a different thing about them, you know? And all the characters have their moments like that. But I kind of want to mention before I forget about Pierre Ravel, because I want to know, especially what Luke thought about this. He reminded me of the the guy in Umbrellas of Cherbourg, the rich guy that ends up marrying her.
Okay, yeah.
In terms, because how we're talking about this relationship where he's like the artist kind of guy, right? Where he barely misses out on her, and then the rich kind of guy where on the surface you might think he's a villain because he's stealing that the artist / soldier. You actually kind of sympathize with at the same time because he is kind of cool and like you can see why she would fall for that lifestyle.
I think when I was in like the first 30 minutes, I was like, I wonder if this is gonna be like Umbrellas of Cherbourg. Honestly, I thought that. I forgot about that. But
and see, that's the thing with Chaplin. You never know where a director could be like, I was definitely thinking.
It's honestly like Umbrellas of Cherbourg. It's Umbrellas of Cherbourg if Demi had balls to do that. But honestly, though, I'm kind of glad Demi didn't do that because that's not what Demi is.
No, especially with the musical aspect.
Yeah. It's just Demi's style. His endings always have to have some hope in them. I feel like.
Yeah. No, but
I don't know. The ending of Barbarossa Ship was pretty good.
No, and this one, but even this one has hope, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I mean, but not as surface level. Like, no, I don't even want to say.
I know what you mean, though. It's like it's the obvious hope of Demi, where it's like he's not trying to hide it.
Yeah, which I definitely don't think I do love that about Demi, because it just kind of fits with his movies.
And it's just like you said, it's his personality, because throughout the course of his films, you can tell he's that kind of person.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, and that's what we can just get back to. We can get to the ending, and we'll see what else comes up after that. But just we'll mention, in case you're listening to this and you haven't watched the movie, how would I describe this? Okay, so basically, the artist or the person she's supposed to end up with, if you're watching from the beginning of the movie, you think she's probably going to end up with at the end. He commits suicide right when you think he might win her over back again or something like that. Which is, I remember the first time watching that, and I think he adds the gunshot soundtrack. There's a gunshot on the soundtrack when you watch it now, which is it's just crazy because all of a sudden it's like really loud,
Yeah.
But so that boyfriend, or not the boyfriend, the artist dies, and then I think it just cuts to 1 year later, maybe. I don't know.
No, it doesn't cut to that. It cuts to they carry him off, and then it cuts to them doing something, and then that takes it to the mom. The mom grabs the gun. She's gonna go kill her, and then she figures out she's not there, and so she goes back, and that's whenever the beautiful scene between them happens.
And I remember the scene where the two wagons or whatever.
Yeah, that's the very end. That's the very
end. But the scene I'm trying to get to is that middle. Yeah, the middle right between there is after basically the mom and Edna Purviance, or the main woman, they kind of come to an understanding over the death of her son, the artist. And so then it cuts to, I don't know, it doesn't say exact time, I don't think, but it just cuts to a future time. It shows a house, and then all of a sudden you see Edna Purviance with a bunch of kids around her, and you think, okay, she has the happy ending, she got married.
Yeah.
But then and this is what makes it even better, and which I love so much. It's a little Chaplin joke.
It's hilarious. I literally laughed, dude.
Where one of the kids says, "Mother, look, Father's here." Like, literally, if you hear mother and father in the same sentence, you're gonna think he's talking about their little father, Yeah. But then someone comes at the door, and it's a priest.
Yeah.
From the local church.
So funny.
From the local parish, and he comes in, and then he comes, sits down, and the kids start playing with him, and the father kind of just keeps asking her, when are you gonna get married? When are you gonna have kids of your own? And she kind of just doesn't answer, really. She doesn't say anything. And that's, to me, kind of, it makes this whole honesty thing I keep saying over and over again, it makes it kind of perfect, where it doesn't give you the fully happy ending that you might have wanted, in terms of she ends up married like she said she wanted to be earlier.
Yeah.
But she might have found a different kind of happiness, almost a kind of peace. And that's really emphasized at the very end.
Yeah.
What in that scene you just mentioned, where we all of a sudden see Pierre Revel in his car driving through the country, and then I think his butler or someone asks him, whatever happened to her? And he's like, I have no idea. He's like, I don't know. And we don't know if he's his face doesn't tell you if he's actually serious. He could have obviously been thinking about it this whole time.
Yeah, he could have. Yeah.
I think he might have been, but then the car drives by, and you see her on just a horse carriage with one of the kids next to her, and they kind of just pass by each other without even seeing each other. And that's how the movie ends.
Yeah, I remember that end because I like that ending. Yeah,
the ending's great. That's one reason why I don't think it's I don't think it's a sad ending or anything, honestly. Even though the man a man committed suicide, and it ruined ruined kind of a relationship, two relationships,
Yeah.
But at the same time, and that ending is It's not even just hopeful. It's she's content with her life now. She found what made her happy.
Yes,
she found what made her happy. Yeah, she's true to herself now.
It's crazy. The more I think about it, the more endings that's inspired basically
oh yeah,
through a lot of cinema. I don't know why, but this one isn't even that similar. It kind of reminded me of the Third Man ending.
You have to remind me. I don't remember.
Where the girl is the guy is just I don't remember the main guy's name, but he's leaning on his car, and the girl, the love interest. I don't want to explain the whole movie, but the girl is walking, just walks straight by him while he's just it's it's a noir where the main guy doesn't get with the main girl. It's basically the femme fatale kind of characters in a way. I don't know. It's anyway. Enough of the Third Man. I don't know. Third Man. It just kind of reminded me of the ending in a way.
No, this has influenced a lot of endings for sure, though. With just just people crossing paths and not acknowledging each other,
And
basically. Like that, like I mean, yeah, kind of. Like.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I mean,
no, I mean honestly, one thing that like we honestly should talk about the censorship of this one because like it's kind of crazy like how back in the day, like you couldn't even make a movie where like something even like what like emphasized, you know, like he's not even like emphasizing that she's like working for money, like having sex with this guy for money or anything. No. It's just because like she's an immoral woman that this like had to be like named a city of Paris, you know? Or like a woman of Paris.
Because the way like, he had to kind of go around the themes without directly saying it, just because of the time.
Yeah, and it's done very impressively.
Oh, it is, yes, because it's very subtle. Yeah, right. It's not out in the open. Like, no, that's a good. Because it was banned. I think in that documentary we watched, it was banned in a few states when it came out and stuff. So. Which
is crazy.
Yeah. But then 1923, that's almost 100 years.
It
Next
is almost
year,
100
year
years.
Anniversary. Insane. But that is weird. That's weird
another thing, that documentary that who plays Marie again?
Edna Purviance.
Oh, okay. No, it wasn't her, but the girl talking about the movie.
Liv
Ullmann. Oh. Yeah, because she was saying, and I actually noticed this and during the movie too. Whenever she's like massaging the girl.
I was literally about to mention that.
I love that scene because I was literally watching that scene and kind of just cracking. Like, because that scene actually is kind of funny because I'm like, this is literally what people at like my work do. Like, whenever they're like cleaning teeth and like just some people are just like shit talking, you're just like, but like you are like changing your pressure and like hurting people. Like you're just like, you're just kind of like looking like, oh my god, I really have to listen to this shit again.
But and she points us out, all the emotions just in the face.
Yeah.
That's a Chaplin. That's just Chaplin classic, right? All the emotions right there in the face. She's doing the same, mechanical work with her body and everything.
Yeah, because she was saying how you, and this is actually something that is definitely done later. How lesser directors will use that situation and the masseuse will start like massaging harder.
Yeah, the joke would be something different. Like
the joke would make it would be like more like the masseuse like hurt and like making it a little more painful for the person that they're doing. That they're like they give a massage to, but.
And that's what makes, and we'll definitely talk about this coming up in this next movies and that are coming in the future as well. But what makes him great is he's not scared if you miss a joke.
No,
and that's what makes it different. A lesser director would be scared that we want everyone to make sure we know that the masseuse is annoyed about what she's having to listen to.
Yeah.
So we'll have to show some great sign, but really her face is just kind of annoyed.
Yeah.
And you could miss it if you were
just
so
relatable.
Not really paying attention. If you're actually more invested in the story, you might kind of miss the joke he's telling with the masseuse.
Yeah.
But it is so funny, like their problem seems so big to them, but when he cuts the masseuse all of a sudden, it just seems like just so dumb. Like there's like what they're arguing about. Like.
And honestly, maybe it's because like. I honestly like this movie, and I think she also mentioned this in that documentary, but it honestly it didn't feel silent to me. Like, I don't know, maybe it's because of the way that like silent actors, at least in Chaplin movies, enunciate their words. But like, I can read lips whenever they're talking.
Oh, that's true.
Like easily, kind of, and so like I just play it out in my head, kind of like they're talking. Like I don't know, I don't know. Maybe that's the reason why I don't feel like this is like a silent movie, like silent movie. But
if I could read lips. I might agree with you, but I cannot at all.
Really?
I'm awful at it, yeah.
I have noticed with Chaplin's movies.
Yeah, because with Chaplin's movies specifically, I've noticed that. Where like they enunciate their words so well that I can understand.
We'll talk about the ending of City Lights, I definitely noticed that.
Yes. I was reading the lips line.
I'm really skipping ahead.
Yeah. You are, yes.
No, but that's true. And even more importantly than I think than that is just even the best movies that have a lot of dialogue, you hope they're using the dialogue to express the characters well.
Yeah.
And Chaplin does not need dialogue to express his characters well. That's what made him great, like especially with the tramp himself, but even all his characters, like even in this movie, like all of, the acting is really good in this. For me, my favorite was the Menjo or what's his name, Pierre Ravel in the movie.
Yeah, his name is Menjo.
Yeah. And before we stop, because we've actually got a decent amount of time on this, but before we stop, I wanted to mention that at least I know one of the main reasons, maybe the main reason he wanted to make the movie in the first place was because he had already divorced like Edna Purviance like a few years before this.
Oh, really?
But he wanted to make a movie with her as the lead just so he could try to get her a career kind of thing. But unfortunately, this movie didn't do very well.
Yes, sadly.
And she kind of retired a few years later. But the cool thing is, apparently he left her on his payroll for the rest of his career kind of thing.
Wow.
Yeah, because he knew how important she was to his shorts especially, but all his early movies, like The Kid. I mean, The Kid especially, but all of his early shorts. And we'll talk about this with the City Lights in the next movie. He did have more difficulty working with his future actresses compared to this one. So
I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
We should honestly end like with the Woman of Paris. Fuck, I forgot what I was gonna say. I don't know what I was gonna say.
Well, if it comes back to you when we're talking about City Lights, it'll come. You can just mention it. Don't worry.
Oh no, okay, I remember.
Okay, got it.
No, okay, so we should mention how Chaplin like giving out those cards beforehand, saying how he wasn't in the movie, how that actually like he was like, it's sad how he was right to be worried, at least at the time, that it would bomb, because it did bomb, and it's really sad that it did bomb, probably because people were wanting a Charlie Chaplin movie and they didn't get a Charlie Chaplin movie that they thought they wanted.
I can't blame them.
But that's the great thing about this movie and why it survived so long and how you know it's like good. If a movie like this especially survives almost like 100 years and is still loved, like, you know, it's he connected with people, you know, like, not like it might take a generation for people like forget like what you're known for and like to like rediscover like little hidden gems in your like in your filmography, but this is definitely a movie that you can tell Chaplin wanted to make, and he says that, and I think in the note like he wanted to try it, and I think he really succeeded. Like this is one of the better movies I've like about this topic that I've ever seen. So.
And I would even honestly say this if I didn't love it, but I do love it. Is I just love the fact it is filmography.
Yeah,
it's so early too, right? It's in between, you know, the Gold Rush and City Lights and all its greats.
As someone who doesn't love it, I agree. So,
because it's just so different too, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, why is this like? How is this in before he made, you know, the Gold Rush, but in between the kids, you know?
Honestly, I wish he did it a bit more too.
Yeah, no, it makes you wish he did one more at least. But
yeah, no, I honestly wish so. Like, because it's just like it feels like more of a mature, not mature is the right word.
Well, is he at Limelight?
Yeah, he's the main actor.
He is the main. Okay, I didn't know if he was the main actor or not. Limelight.
Well, Counts from Hong Kong, he's not in, I guess.
He's not in that?
I don't think
I thought he was.
I haven't seen it, but I'm pretty sure he's not in that.
I haven't either. I was saving it for this.
But does that really count, though? I mean,
if he's in that?
I mean, it's not like Prime Chaplin, though. That's the thing.
What do you consider Prime Chaplin?
Okay, well, see, that's...
Prime Chaplin lasts like 20 years.
We're going to have to talk about that throughout the course of the series. What is Prime Chaplin?
That's like 30 years, actually. Monsieur of Verdun comes out in the 50s. So.
The peak of Chaplin, is that a better word for it?
Peak of Chaplin, 1928, Gold Rush to The Great Dictator, is that what you're thinking? Is peak
Probably,
Chaplin?
Or to Monsieur of Verdun. I don't know.
See, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's a long time. It's a long time to have a prime.
And that's actually that's a good way to transition to what a lot of people consider his peak, which is City Lights. I've seen
it's
a lot
the
of
peak so far.
Maybe you could consider this the most important opinion, but Chaplin always thought this was his best movie and his favorite movie.
That's fair.
And because in the Criterion commentary for City Lights, which I definitely recommend, it has a Chaplin biographer, Jeffrey Vance, I think is his name. He mentions that because Chaplin would go back and rework a lot of his earlier movies later on, but this is the only one he never changed, even later on.
That's interesting.
Because that's how
he
much
didn't even add any after music or anything like.
Well, this was after, and this is a good way to start why he made this movie. This is after the sound was introduced.
Oh, okay.
So this was the first movie where all those little sound effects you hear are actually real.
Okay.
At the time, I mean, not real. They're all real, but at
the
time
they were like he put them in the movie. Yeah.
And it's so amazing because. It's why Chaplin's so perfect, where you could just watch the movie at a surface level and just think he's making like some funny jokes at the time, but then when you learn the history and the context of, so 1931 was 4 years after I think the first sound movie, which was called The Jazz Singer in the 1927. I think I'm pretty sure 27 or 28 around there.
Yeah.
So this comes out a few years after, and by that point, a lot of Hollywood and a lot of studios had already moved completely to sound. Yeah. Because this was the future. I mean, they were right about that.
Yes.
But, there's no point in making sound. Like they were already really cutting back on sound films. I mean, silent films at that point. And Chaplin, was already a huge star, but he was a silent star, and this was independently produced by United Artists. So it's kind of just like a defiant movie in terms of I'm still gonna make a silent movie. I'm still the greatest. And
he was right.
First of all, it was a huge hit. It was a huge hit. But more importantly, it's a silent movie that actually uses. At the same time, it's not a silent movie.
Yes,
there's sound in it. Yeah. There's definitely, and the sound is amazing when he does use it. And that's how we can actually kind of get started just with the intro. Is the first scene with the introduction of the monument.
Oh yeah.
And then the voices of like the politician and the people donating to all the rich people donating to the monument. It's just muffled like voices on the soundtrack. Like you can't even understand them. It's just like, and he's making a joke where like a lot of the early soundtracks at the time would sound like really muffled and bad. You know, you assume. And so he's kind of just making that joy. Like this is what the sound. This is what you get.
Okay. I'm sure he's criticizing the politicians too.
Oh yeah, it's a lot. That's sure. It works on multiple levels, right?
Yeah.
But the most important level is that it's just fucking funny.
Yeah,
yes. Then we get maybe the best Tramp intro.
It's a great intro.
With him
it's
just
there,
when the okay, before we start talking about the movie, I'll just ask both of you guys' overall opinions. What do you guys think?
Good movie, guys.
One of the funniest movies I've ever seen. So.
Okay, but in my opinion, his best blend of drama and comedy.
I would agree with that. That I've seen so far. That I've seen so far.
It's his best blend, I think. It's
drama and comedy.
He was at the height of his powers here. Honestly.
See, that's where I'm not sure. At certain powers.
Sure, yeah.
Certain powers.
Yeah.
It's like comparing a young LeBron.
Is this
to
before or after
Modern
Times?
It's different. It's different powers.
Is this before or after Modern Times? It's after, right?
It's before.
Before.
Yeah.
Okay, so
we're doing Modern Times next week.
Modern Times was like 1936, and this was like.
So far, this is still the peak for me, and I've seen 2 Modern Times. That's as far as I've seen the Chaplin. This is to Modern Times. So this is still the peak, the tip top.
Okay,
for me.
Yes, and it's a fair opinion because most people would say this is at least not if it's not his peak, one of his peaks. You know, maybe Great Dictator. A lot of people love it. I know as well.
It's definitely up there. I love the Great Dictator.
Great Dictator?
Yeah, that's great.
We'll get. I think we're gonna do that next week. Spoiler alert, but.
Spoiler alert.
But Blake, you also loved it.
Oh yes, I love this one. Yeah.
Before we get into the actual movie,
No, yeah, I loved the blend of drama and comedy, like Lou said. Like I think I texted you guys this, but I said it was the funniest or like the hardest I laughed at a movie in a while. But also, like, I felt bad for laughing because of the situations they're in, you know? It's like, these are, like, actual situations that people are in, like, even now, you know? Like, where you just don't have money for rent. Like, that's a very relatable thing, you know?
Yes.
Yeah. And, like, that's the whole reason why he ends up doing what he's doing.
Yep.
Like, for this girl that's blind and somehow finds a cure for blindness, which is hilarious, but...
and honestly...
It's kind of beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yes.
It is, yeah.
No, that's what makes it... It's kind of that, it's not just funny for funny's sake, it's kind of that bittersweet funniness, you know, that kind of ties you back down to reality, you know, even when you're laughing, you know. And in the commentary that Jeffrey Vance says, he mentions this multiple times, that especially in every scene with the girl, there's always some kind of pain associated with it. Yeah. Right? And that's on purpose, right? Like, he doesn't want you to get too happy.
Yeah. He doesn't want you
just like the Tramp is never, you know, the Tramp can never have full happiness, you know? If you've, watched his shorts, you definitely know that, but... that's just kind of what the Chaplin's saying about the Tramp. But my favorite example of what you said about that, in terms of where it's you almost feel bad about laughing because it's so true. My favorite, almost the analogy he makes throughout the movie is with the rich guy. When he's drunk, he likes the Tramp. Yeah. When he's not drunk, he doesn't even know who the Tramp is. Right, and that kind of feeling of society, in a large degree, is based on how rich people feel about certain things. Yeah. That's basically what it is. And the people who feel that the most are the poorest people, like the Tramp, you know?
They're directly affected, basically.
Yes, directly affected. And indirectly affected with the girl, right? So the only reason she's able to survive is because of somehow they're able to get a rich guy's money. Yeah. You know, and someone has to pay the price for it, but that's how it happens, you know? Yep. And I love the fact that we're talking about a movie about a tramp and a comedy from the 1920s or 1930s, right? 1931. But at the same time, we can make analogies like that. Yeah. You know? Yeah.
And it's not even just like the rich and poor thing. It's like, this is just how like some people are. Like, they won't even look at you unless they're plastered. You know, like like there are people at work like that where like the only time they'll ever talk to me is at a work party where they're like fucking drunk as hell. And I'm like, I don't care. Like, I don't like them, obviously, but I mean, that's the thing. That's the thing. That's the thing. Yes, you notice, and that's the thing with the Tramp that he notices. But he at least plays it off because he wants money. Hopefully, like after that's actually kind of what I liked was like the first 2 times that he like the first time that he meets the guy and he's drunk, they're friends and stuff, and then like he doesn't know who he is the next time. The Tramp doesn't really think much of it. The second time it happens, he thinks it's kind of weird, and then the third time it happens. Like, he's like, okay, like, it's whatever. It's the money. Yeah, he needs the money, and so he's like, okay, I'm gonna play this for my own benefit because I don't care about this guy. Like, that's whenever I actually think like he has like he's not looking at this guy as a friend anymore. Like, he's actually just looking at him for money now. Yeah. Like, he only wants the money at that point.
And based on what you said, it kind of just made me think of just a reason why I love the Tramp in general, just throughout his movies, is he never really does the first 2 times ever get over offended or anything like that.
Yeah.
You know, he's like he's used to it. You know, like he's not even that surprised by it.
No, yeah.
It's only when he needs that money for the girl is when he actually starts to get concerned about it.
Yeah.
You know, the first 2 times is like, you know, it's like okay, like I'll go throughout my day.
Yeah. Oh, it's got a
like,
car randomly. Oh wow.
Like he gets a car. Like the guy gives him a car and he's happy about it, but he's also not too mad about it when he loses the car.
And dude, one of my favorite things whenever he gets the car for the first time is I think he like pulls over on the side of the road.
I was literally gonna mention
the bum or like someone drops a cigar and a bum goes to pick it up and he starts smoking and then Charlie jumps out of the car, pushes him down, picks the cigar up and then jumps back into the Rolls Royce. I'm like, this guy's literally just like driving around in a Rolls Royce and pushes a bum over for a cigar that was discarded because he uses that same joke.
It's honestly one of just the simplest images of. The tramp does not change for money's definitely not going to change the tramp.
No, and that's the thing because he actually did that joke in the Gold Rush too, which I'm actually kind of glad I watched it because in the Gold Rush it's after he becomes rich, like at the very end, like with the gold, they get the gold mountain, like they get the gold, and then like they're on the boat or whatever, they're getting on the boat, and someone drops a cigar, and the tramp goes to pick it up, and then like the rich guy with him goes like he smacks him,
and they get a new
and they
one.
he pulls out his like cigar case and gives him one like that, and he's like, you don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, so like that was the moment in the Gold Rush too, where I'm like, oh, he hasn't changed, so.
No, that's
money doesn't change the tramp.
And honestly, I mean that's what that'll be a common theme throughout these movies where he's not going to change for literally anyone.
Yeah.
And it honestly becomes more overt, especially in modern times in this next one that we watch. But it's definitely there in this one as well. Like the only reason he's like because one of the title cards after he decides to work for the girl because he sees that she's sick through the window.
Yeah.
Is. He's like, then it says, oh, he decides to go work for money now.
Yeah.
You know, like, what's he having to do the whole time, you know?
Yeah.
And that leads to one of the best scenes where he's like a street cleaner, and they show him, because they show him as a street cleaner, and he walks to the street with because he thinks that street's going to be empty, then all of a sudden he sees like a bunch of horses walking by, like, oh my gosh, and then so he turns around, and then all of a sudden like an elephant walks by, and then like his face is just so funny, he's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just so good. It's just like so simple too.
So
it's like
funny,
it's not even that long of a scene. It's like it's just like the swing of emotions.
It's just a quick hitter.
Yeah. But I wanted to mention maybe my favorite scene in the movie besides the ending, and it'll kind of talk about why I like the kind of dichotomy he sets up with these the three main characters. Is do you remember the scene where the cat like drops the vase on his head?
Yeah.
And he kind of like it's like a funny joke where he stumbles around, but then all of a sudden he like looks up, and he just watches the girl kind of just like water her plants or something when she's still blind. And in that moment, it makes you just like think like because if you think about it, the tramp is always the one being watched, right? He's always in every situation he's in, he's always the one being made fun of or the one like he's the center of attention, mostly on purpose.
Not only for the people in the movie, but for the audience as
well.
Yes,
for the audience, but in that moment. He's the one staring at her, and like it's almost like you can feel his type of happiness, feel a sense of happiness of I'm the one who's getting to watch someone else, you know, and have a sense of happiness from it kind of thing, and it's such a great moment, but at the same time it's kind of bittersweet, because is it almost like she doesn't know the real him kind of thing, you know, like he is kind of dreaming still, because in some ways they are both still lying to each other, but at the same time it's a great moment, you know, and it's the common theme of Chaplin, he's going to give you both in the same image almost.
Yeah.
But I just love that that feeling of this is why a blind girl can fall in love with a tramp, because she's blind, right? Because that would never happen if she wasn't blind, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And then the opposite is, and it's the same kind of theme, but it's different with the rich guy, right? The rich guy would never like him if he wasn't super drunk.
Yep. Unless he's blind. Yeah.
Yes. Unless he's blind, right? Or sober. Yeah, that's what a lot of people would say. You know, if you're not sober, you're blind.
Yep.
So, and that's what I love, like the tramp, he kind of has to accept that, you know. That's how he lives his life. He knows that people have to. It's a weird movie, because I don't think you get that as much even as earlier movies. In that terms,
not as much, definitely.
Even when he has characters beside him, I can still feel kind of a loneliness, especially at the end, which we'll have to get to. But I don't know. I've been talking too much. What other things come to your guys' mind? Like, what do you guys love about the movie?
there's you kind of tackled a lot of things.
I mean, it literally.
I love this movie.
I don't remember like how it actually how it like leads into this, but like even just the very beginning, whenever he saves the rich guy's life, I just died laughing. I don't know.
A great scene.
Yeah.
It's just so funny, dude. Like everything's funny, but it's also kind of to the point where like saving that rich guy's life actually might have just caused him more problems, you know.
Yeah.
But like he's such a good person that he has to do it. Like he's not just gonna like let this guy kill himself, I guess.
But I mean, yeah, Chaplin does treat the tramp bad, but he also creates a lot of empathy for him, which and helps the ending a lot. I think. Which I think.
So what do you mean, like?
I mean, a lot of empathy. You know, when basically, I think he builds up all the empathy with the scenes with the rich girl.
Okay. A rich guy.
Yeah.
You said rich girl.
No, blind girl.
Oh, blind girl. Okay.
I don't know why I said rich girl. But yeah, but like you get so much empathy for the tramp, and then the ending hits so much harder. Basically,
yes,
that's what I'm saying.
Okay, yes, that swing.
But we also need to talk about the boxing scene. I feel like.
Oh yes, definitely.
My favorite part about the scene is not even the boxing though. It's the before he wins boxing, how the fighter's using the rabbit foot and stuff.
Oh.
And he goes out there, and the Chaplin starts using it when he's out fighting, and then he comes back knocked out, and then Chaplin started to wipe it off himself.
Yeah,
that's
trying to wipe
hilarious.
it off.
Like
no, it's a great. Yeah, we have to talk about that scene because I remember in the commentary as well they mentioned how that was one of Chaplin's favorite scenes he ever did. And they tell a story where he's at like the 1972 Venice Film Festival.
Oh.
So like 40 years later, and he had already known this before the movie had started. They were going to play the movie, and they had told him that he was going to have to leave right after he introduced it because he was going to win an award somewhere else in the city.
Okay.
But after he introduced the movie, he's like, no, I'm staying until the boxing scene. And
he
only
wow.
left after the boxing scene. And this was like 40 years later, and he obviously seen it like a bunch of times.
That's amazing.
So that's how much he loved it.
Wow. Man, that's actually crazy thinking about like how directors can just like watch their own movies. Like that's insane.
Yes. And one of the reasons he loved that scene so much was because he was a huge. I mean, in the shorts, he does boxing a few times. He goes to boxing, but he was just a huge boxing fan throughout his life, and I think that boxing combined with just for me the dance aspect of it, and he was very aware of this too. It's a choreographed boxing fight. You know, like
it is
almost so perfectly choreographed.
It is
it's
perfect.
Not natural. But it's almost natural, right? It looks so simple the way they're doing it, but you can tell probably there was a lot of work that put into that.
Even with the referee in it, you know.
Yeah, no, yes. And my favorite, at least the first image that will always come to my mind when I hear the boxing fight is when they're all just moving side to side together with him hiding behind the ref, and then the scene where the ref gets turned or the guy gets turned around and he's like,
he's following Charlie.
Yeah. Charlie's behind him. But just the way, and then the fact that Charlie loses or the tramp loses, you know, because especially if you're watching the first time, you could definitely see, oh, okay, he's gonna, because he literally sets it up where the fight is $50.
Yeah.
And initially, when he thinks he's gonna split it 50-50, he's gonna get 25. You know, exactly perfect for the
$3 left for him too.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But perfect for the rent. But then he loses the fight. You know, after all that, it's I think probably the longest scene in the movie, if I had to guess.
It definitely was. I think it was.
I think if I had to guess,
it was a long scene. So.
Oh yeah, it's good, especially the intro too.
Yes.
The intro to the boxing scene as well. But just for him to lose that fight, you know, like you think that's this is how he's gonna get the money.
Yeah. And the way he loses is so disappointing because they're both like knocking each other out basically, but then like he gets the freaking like bell rope tied around his neck, and like every time he moves forward, the bell rings, and then like they think the fight's starting again, so they both start fighting.
Yeah.
So like even the way he loses is like really sad because like he should be over there like getting a rest, but he keeps on walking over there to get a rest, and like he just gets choked by the thing and it pulls. So.
And just because you remind me of the bell, it just reminds me of like that one scene where he like goes to ring the bell himself.
Yeah.
Just to stop
Yes.
or at the beginning when he's like shaking everyone's hands, including the opponents, and everyone's like, "What the fuck?"
He's such a weak fighter.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, it's so great. And like even the intro to the boxing where he's just sitting in the table, because I literally remember watching this time thinking, oh, I wonder why. Like watching this, like I just kind of remembered in my head Chaplin introducing him the tramp sitting on a table. And because you see the guy that he sets up the fight with first is actually shorter than him.
Yeah.
And he's like a lot shorter than him. You're like, oh, the tramp is actually going to get to fight someone shorter than him. And of course, his bad luck leads to that guy having to run away, and then the guy he ends up having to fight is like huge. and and beats up the guy with the rabbit's foot.
Yeah.
I remember right after he just knocks him out, which makes it even worse for the tramp. But
not the guy with the rabbit. The guy that beat the guy with the rabbits.
Okay, yes, exactly, yeah. But the tramp holds his own.
He definitely holds his own.
He gets some shots.
No, that was a very interesting strategy. Hiding behind the rabbit.
Like,
people should try that more.
He's tiring him out.
Yeah, people should try that more.
Or did you guys notice? And do you remember the part where he's like using the lines on the side of the boxing ring to like dive into?
Yes.
The guy Did you notice the line? He's like tied to a line.
Oh no, I didn't.
And you can kind of see it at certain points because I noticed it this time.
No, I didn't.
You can see him on a line, literally like they're pushing him, like or pulling him basically to hit him the guy, and that's why he's like how he's like basically looks like he's flying through the air for a little bit there.
That's crazy.
I had not seen the line.
I was like, damn, this guy was like inventing WWE.
Dude, that's literally what I was thinking whenever I was watching it though. I was like, this is just WWE.
Yeah.
Can't knock him out.
Should we get to the ending?
Oh man.
Because I do. We got, to me, like watching it this time, because I even knew what the ending was basically, and even then, like
it still hits you like a
it
truck.
still hits you when the camera. I think you guys know the moment I'm going to talk about, but when you see his face for the first time when he recognizes her through the window, and his face is like you can see all the reactions, all the emotions just in his face changing.
Yeah.
And then he just has a smile, because he can tell that she can see.
Yeah.
Right after all that, like,
man.
No social media, you didn't know, and just even when he introduces the tramp after he gets out of prison, after robbing the money for her and everything, he gets out of prison, and the first shot you see of him, his clothes are like worse than ever. He's like missing half of them. Yeah. They're torn everywhere. Like he's like at his worst.
Yeah.
And the little boys mess.
Yeah, and then they start bullying them, and that's when we get introduced to the blind girl right after. Yeah. She's basically kind of laughing at him with them. Yeah. And you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
Like that feeling.
And I think it's so beautiful how the way she found out it was him was for her feeling his hands. That's so amazing. Yes.
No, like, I actually wanted to talk about that in a second. Actually, I'll just mention it now because I'll probably forget later. But I just love the poetic nature of that is literally it's like a really sweet ending of her recognizing him based on his hands, his feeling.
Yeah.
But then the whole aspect of what we were talking about at the beginning of Chaplin making a movie in defiance with the silent era, and to me at least anyway, I see basically to understand who the tramp is, you kind of have to know him by his hands, the way he moves his hands, the way his expressions, that kind of thing, right? It's not about
what he says.
Yeah, it's not about what he says. It's about it's literally his hands, what he does with his hands, like
on his acting, like on the outside.
Yes, acting, and I see that represented through his hands, right? Her recognizing through his hands, that kind of thing. Not words, right? He didn't have to say anything, and she recognized him.
Yeah.
And it's a great ending because, at the same time, it doesn't mean they're gonna. It's almost like it's a similar ending to The Kid, almost.
Yeah.
Where it doesn't mean they're gonna end up together or anything like that. But it's not necessarily.
I think it's a little bit more like suggesting they are.
Okay.
I do think this one is suggesting they are because I think she's just got such a good heart for being she was also disabled for most of her life up to this point, so she knows what he's going what he feels. That's why I think it's like it's a
remember
sweet
and
ending.
Also in the shop right before she goes like, I wonder if
I've
that was him.
I've made my first conquest.
Yeah.
Oh no. Oh yeah.
I wonder if that was him. Like. So basically, she was looking for him.
She's still
basically.
thinking. Yeah, she's still.
But,
that could be.
But that's what I thought the first time. But this made me think the opposite. That same moment, because look who she hopes it is.
I don't think that's a hope though. It's because it's not a hope because it's who he.
You don't think she was hoping deep down like hopefully it's this guy? She never thought about that. She
might have.
But that's what I'm saying.
But it's because he also told her that he was rich.
Yes. Okay. That's
true.
Like
he told her, so she's assuming he's gonna be a rich guy. So she wasn't as.
That's a good point.
That's also why the ending, why I really thought it was a very sweet, really loving ending, is because she that look that she gives him, I thought that she loved him. I thought she. I
guess really what I'm saying is the tramp cannot end up with he can't end up married. Come on. Even though he does in some of his shorts.
He must torture.
I love that ending so much because it really is just. It's like a conglomeration of what Chaplin of Chaplin's views on kind of the best of humanity, and like my review of City Lights was it restored a bit of my hope for humanity, because if we I feel like Chaplin with this ending is just saying love is blind, literally. This blind girl loved him, even if even once she saw he wasn't rich, she still loved him.
Yeah.
At least that's what the ending I think means. And like I think that's just a beautiful ending, like, and a beautiful thing to like say about humanity is like if we just think like that, like love is blind, like I don't know, like how, like what, like would there even be tramps, you know? Like I don't know.
No,
like,
because that's, and remember when I mentioned earlier about the rich man, when his love is blind is when he's drunk.
Yes.
And that's when he's able to love the tramp, right?
Yeah.
In some respects, when he's drunk is when the rich man is
That's
actually
when he's his happiest,
and his best, right? It's just that he can't keep that state, you know.
He's trying to forget something in his life too.
Yes,
so.
that's also true. Yeah. Yeah, they do mention that at the beginning. Because even the rich man has his reasons.
Yeah, he has his reasons for drinking. Yes. To excess. The butler's just an asshole, though.
Oh, yeah.
But that's interesting. Like, it's interesting to me because I'm not sure if I fully believe that they're gonna end up together. Watching this.
I mean, I don't know.
Because
obviously.
And what I love about and to me it honestly doesn't matter. Because what I love about the tramp and his reaction is he does not care either way.
He's just glad that she didn't like kick
when
him
he's
out,
just
basically.
staring at him. When he's just staring at her the whole time through the window, it's just like it's so awesome because he holds on for a while where he's just. You can tell like she's offering him another rose and then she offers him some money and his face basically just smiling the whole time. Like,
yeah.
And then the second she tries to offer, like she comes through the door.
She tries to get.
He tries to run.
Yeah, she tries to go and like talk, like touch him basically.
Yeah, and he tries to run because he doesn't want to ruin it. You know,
Yeah.
like, he doesn't want to ruin that.
He's scared
image
of what's
she
going to
had.
happen.
Yeah,
Yes,
he doesn't. Yeah,
that image she had of him.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Yes.
But.
And then remember the last words is "you can see now."
Yeah.
And that, it's such a beautiful,
so beautiful. Yeah, I mean,
like that's why I just choose to think that they're going to be together because
but
like
that's different. You're kind of like to me it's more I'm hoping they're together. I'm not necessarily sure.
Yeah, I think I for me I just choose to be sure because of just kind of how the movie feels. So
it does.
Like that it just like feels like this is what it's leading up to, and it's like even that ending like if even if they didn't end up together, it's like who cares? Obviously, at the same time.
No, because to me it could be more of like the kid ending where it's still like they might still be friends or something, you know.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily mean like it's the totally happy where like in the kid you would hope he would end up with the kid again.
Yeah.
You know, it's not that happy ending.
Yeah.
You know, it's more like she recognizes the tramp, they're friends again or something kind of thing. You know.
Maybe
Because you know, and watching this time, just watching her face get all excited when like she's to me it was almost like she's hoping it's this guy.
Oh yeah.
You know, because that's the thing. That's part of the comedy he's trying to make is we're all, if you can see, we're all visual creatures to some degree.
Yes.
You know, like if there's some long lost love out there and we don't know what she looks like, we're kind of hoping she looks good when she walks in. You know, like we don't want her to be like the tramp. Like.
That's why I guess that's also just why I thought that, like the ending is basically him saying like love is blind because I just think that Charlie Chaplin like the human thought that like humanity was not like fucked, you know. Like he believed in the good. He believed in the good of humanity, and I do think that ending shows. Like I think that like that's why I said I think it's like a conglomeration of like all of his earlier shorts.
What about you, Luke? Break the tie for us.
Break the tie.
Okay, you don't have to think of it like that. But
I mean, does it even really matter at that point?
No,
that's really what I believe. Honestly, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter as much because, and this is important because of how the tramp reacts before that.
Yeah,
he's happy either way.
He's happy either way.
You know, it's not like he's going to, like he's disappointed unless she still loves him or that kind of thing, right? He's happy that she can see, and that's it.
That's why I think that's also a perfect conglomeration for all of his earlier shorts because like it's like even like the Pilgrim or it's the Pilgrim, yeah, where he like gives the money back to the girl after his friend tries to steal it. Like every time he tries to give money to someone, everything always goes wrong, and he always ends up going to jail or something.
But he always helps.
But he always helps. And he always feels good about it, and he always feels good about it, even if he has to go back to jail. He always feels good about it.
And it's honestly just one of my favorite things about the tramp is he's on the surface he's like really dumb and he's not self-aware, but deep down you can even tell. Even the character himself,
he represents
is self-aware.
He kind of represents the good of humanity.
He does.
Yeah, he does. Okay, you have to define that even more. What do you mean by good in humanity?
I mean, it's kind of hard. I mean, he doesn't fully.
Because he's got his moments. You know, where he's lazy. He doesn't want to work. You know, like he's got it.
But when he,
to me, it's more. I would phrase it differently. To me, it's no matter what humanity is, the tramp still thinks it's good.
Okay.
Even when humanity is bad, you know, or when it's lazy or.
It's like even whenever he doesn't want, whenever he doesn't want to do the right thing, he does the right thing. It's kind of how I see it. Like.
Okay.
Like
especially when it's girls involved.
Yes, especially when there's involved. Yes.
Or more, I guess, on a deeper reading would be when it's for love of others.
Yes.
Or yes. I think he maybe mentions this.
Whenever someone in need needs whenever a person in need needs help, like he will not. He doesn't hesitate to help them. You know, like you see that in all of his shorts, even like leading up to this moment. It's pretty impressive.
No, definitely.
Like he definitely has a view for the Tramp, and that's one reason why the Tramp has lasted over 100 years. You know, people connect with him.
Yeah, I mean,
everyone loves the Tramp. What are you looking at?
Okay, I was looking up. It's not from City Lights. It's from A Woman of Paris. But it applies to this movie too. Time heals, and experience teaches that the secret of happiness is in service to others. And
yes, I love that. I love that part.
But that's kind of a motto for a lot of Chaplin's movies, right? Where
it is.
It's kind of true where when the Tramp is at his most loving of humanity is when he's in service of others. Mm-hmm. It's kind of when he's just on his own, doing his own thing. Where it's funny, but at the same time he doesn't care as much, Yeah. Like I mentioned earlier, when he finally decides to go work a job is when he's actually working for the woman. For himself,
he does the same thing in the Gold Rush too.
Do you think he's the definition of self-image then? Is he like does he represent the self-image basically is what I'm trying to say? I guess it's more of just a major theme he often represents in movies, but yeah, I mean,
I think like the self-image of like you're not like he doesn't think like what you look at on the outside is like what you should be judged by is what you're saying, obviously. Like Chaplin, the Tramp character, is saying to everyone basically like it doesn't matter what you look like on the outside if you're good on the inside. It's like who cares? Like if you're doing what's best to like help humanity and people and just like happiness will follow kind of. Yeah. I feel like that's what he's trying to say with the Tramp.
No, I think I agree with that. Well, I guess we're gonna watch a few more Tramp movies.
It's crazy how complex the Tramp character is.
He is.
No. Yeah. Oh yes. It's like it just you wouldn't think about that for a silent. Like when you think of the Tramp, like if it was your first time getting into Chaplin, you wouldn't think, oh, that's why I'm getting into Chaplin. I want to study what this Tramp character and like the complexities he has, throughout his movies or something. Yeah. And especially in relation to going, at least we're actually gonna watch a lot of his movies, maybe most of them. But going through his early shorts, where he is more of that trampish character, which is a straight comedy aspect, slapstick, funny gags, that kind of thing, to getting deeper and deeper. And Chaplin's doing this on purpose. He's trying to push the limits of what he can do with the
silent medium.
Yeah, the silent medium. How deep he can get you to feel, or how deep he can get you to feel emotions. How much he can swing your emotions, all this kind of stuff through this Tramp character, right?
Yeah.
And then at the same time, make it to where a 10-year-old in Asia watches it and can still like the movie at the same time. Yeah. Because he was a worldwide hit. Yeah. Which is, I just love, like, we can talk about a movie like this as deep as we are, and at the same time it was spread across all the world as early as the movie was.
Everyone can appreciate it.
Yes. Yeah. It's just so simple, It's not hard to understand. Like
simple but effective, basically.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh, yes. And kind of, I guess we can end because we've been going a long time with just 2 movies. Yeah. But no, dude, I love it. Like, maybe just to end, just to conclude this episode and maybe the future ones as well, is the reason why I love Chaplin so much is that kind of simplicity to him, right? Yeah. Everything is like, if you notice, and you'll see this in the future movies too, if he can show all the emotions he wants to in like one shot, he's gonna try to do it. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, and just one example of that happens in City Lights is the first time we find out that she's sick is basically there's like a close up of a stethoscope, like the flower she had or something, and then something else, and we just know that she's sick from one shot, and then we see her on the bed. That's it. That's all we need, right? Like a movie nowadays would be like, oh, like there'd be like so much conversation about what she's sick with and everything, and like there's just so many examples of that, right? Just a single shot, and he gets you all this emotion, right?
Yep. You kind of needed that with silent films too. I mean,
oh, you definitely did. Yeah. Yes. No, honestly, that's what makes silent movies great.
And I mean, we didn't even mention this one in A Woman of Paris, but like whenever or maybe we did, whenever she's coming up saying like how she wants to be married and have kids, and then he points the camera outside at the family. Yes. And like how the mother's like basically being neglected by her husband, has 2 like nagging children, and like the guy's basically asking like, yeah, do you want this? Yes. Or do you want what we have like right now? Yep. And it's like,
and that's all you need. Like,
yeah, that's all you need. He knows what he wants to shoot, and that's the best part about him.
And then, and just another kind of thing that bounces off that is he trusts his audience to understand it. Yeah. Right? He doesn't have to overemphasize it, repeat it 3 times like a normal screenplay would or something if it's something important, Yeah. Like, he trusts his audience even in the 20s or in the 30s, right? And before I just, just start going too much into Chaplin, overpraising him.
Overpraising.
That sounds like that's probably a good place to stop. Before
Yeah, we have a few more episodes.
We have a few more episodes to do that, and definitely the conclusion episode. I'll definitely have to do that. But next week we're probably gonna do maybe his 2 most popular.
City Lights is one of his most popular.
Okay, I guess it depends on how you define popular. There's a few maybe his top 3 is probably Great Dictator, Modern Times.
Not ranked like that. I feel like City Lights and Modern Times are at the top. I feel
in terms of popularity.
Yeah,
really.
I think they probably are.
Okay, okay. But I know just a lot of people would recognize probably those 3.
Yes, for sure.
Before anything else. And then so next week we're doing Modern Times and The Great Dictator. I think those are the next 2 in his filmography too, right after City Lights. If correct. So, yep, they are. Yep. And then we will actually end the Tramp era with Modern Times. His last movie is The Tramp.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I didn't know that was his last movie.
Great Dictator's not The Tramp.
Yeah.
So, our last Tramp movie, our first.
R.I.P.
And then The Great Dictator. Kind of just a new kind of subject. In some ways, a new subject for him. Shoulder arms, but
shoulder arms is amazing, dude. Oh my goodness.
Until next time, hope to catch you floating in the clouds.
There you go.